Waiting right now in London to speak with us by satellite is Mandy Davies. Who along? Some of you older people would be able to remember. Younger people may not. We've got something to refresh your memory. Mandy Davies, along with the infamous Christine Keeler, caused one of the biggest sex scandals in British political history. Have a look at this, then we'll meet her. Here.
In 1963, these headlines and photographs rocked the world. 18-year-old Mandy Davies found herself thrust into the center of the sex scandal of the century. Allegations of spying, sex and drug rings clouded the staid British Conservative government. Prime Minister Harold Macmillan held a council of war to prepare for the House of Commons debate on the notorious Profumo affair. Mr. Macmillan faced the supreme test of his political career. Britain's War Minister, John Profumo, had resigned. The infamous Christine Keeler had had an affair with Profumo while also involved with the Russian naval attaché, Eugene Ivanov. There were whispers that Christine was taping conversations, long before President Nixon had ever thought of pressing the button and unleashing Watergate. At the core of the scandal, three names kept leaping to the headlines: Dr. Stephen Ward, Christine Keeler, and Mandy Davies. Mandy was called by the prosecution to give evidence against Stephen Ward, a slightly sinister osteopath who faced 8 charges, 5 under common law and 3 under the Sexual Offences Act. One of the charges Ward faced was living off the immoral earnings of Keeler and Davies. It was of this charge that Ward was in fact found guilty. By the time the scandal had faded, England's Conservative government had fallen. A cabinet minister was politically disgraced. A society osteopath had taken an overdose, and Mandy and Christine had become 2 of the most written about women in the world.
Well, it's hard to believe that all of that happened 18 years ago or more. And the lady, one of the key ladies involved in that, of course, is our guest. By satellite from London, would you please welcome Mandy Davies here. There you are. Hello. Very nice. Well, I must say, having a good look here, Mandy, the years have been very kind to you. 18 years ago, and you still look very, very well.
Thank you, thank you.
do you have to work at that, Mandy, or is it still natural?
Not too hard.
Yes.
I don't like working at anything too hard.
Let me step back just a little so we can start to talk about Mandy Davies in those days, because you've recently come out with a book, and of course the book is named after yourself. You gave us a reason for the book was that you wanted to say in your own words what happened during all of that and to have it clear for your daughter. How old's your daughter now, 12?
Well, she's 12 years old, right.
Yeah. Is that the reason that you wrote the book?
Well, it's the primary reason, because I suppose after the first 10 minutes of meeting somebody, I get asked the inevitable question, what happened in '63? So this way, I just hand them the book.
Oh, right, yes.
And charge them.
And charge them, yes.
That's right.
Yeah, nothing new. Anyway, let me talk about Murray's Club, okay? Now, for a lot of people that may not know, I think it would be interesting if we sort of took a trip back into those days, prior to the scandal and all of that. That was really the first break-in for you. Can you explain to me, what was Murray's Club?
Well, Murray's Club was a cabaret club, but don't forget this was in 1960.
Right.
And there were no topless girls or things like that. It was all run on very highly respectable lines, I suppose. And old Percy Murray, I think was a sort of member of the society in a way. So most of the people, most of the members that came to the club were members of the aristocracy, politicians, etc., etc.
And what were your duties there, Mandy?
Well, I was a dancer. When I first arrived in London, I actually got the job the first day. So I was there about 6 weeks in all. It wasn't too long. But my ambitions, of course, were to become a model. Right. But I needed to earn some money in the meantime, so it seemed a convenient way.
How old were you then when you were at Murray's?
When I was at Murray's, I was 16.
Right. And
I told him, of course, I was 18, but I was 16.
Were there strict rules about whether you were 16 or 18? What was the legal age at that time?
Oh, yes, you had to be 18. Well, because of the drinking laws, basically.
And what were your
And-
what were your duties there besides being a dancer? Were you forced to go out and mix with the customers? Oh, not forced, I mean allowed.
Oh, good Lord, no, no. Well, in fact, old Percy Murray, I think, had a vague suspicion that I wasn't 18, and he didn't want me to sit out at all, except one night when the Earl of Dudley asked if I would sit with them at the table. I was so impressed that I couldn't resist it, so that's when I did.
That would have been your first lessons about really being extremely well-groomed and looking beautiful and so forth. I understand he had a stringent set of rules at Murray's Club.
Oh, yes, indeed. You got fined for everything. A chipped nail polish, being late. Oh, very, very strict.
And
Like a girls' school.
is that right? Did they have you line
Oh,
up
yes.
for inspection and all of that before you?
Oh, yes, good Lord, yes. Every hair in place, the whole works. And, of course, you had to be terribly thin in those days.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he didn't like anything like busty bodies and things. You know, you had to be wafer thin, and which I was at the time.
That was the model standard of the day, too, wasn't it? The very thin ladies.
Well, no, it wasn't actually.
No?
It was just his idea of what he thought the aristocratics might like.
I understand that one of the royalty that visited there quite often was King Hussein. Did you meet him or go to any of his parties or anything like that?
No, I missed King Hussein because he married about 4 or 5 months before I arrived on the scene there, and that was a little before my time.
Well, the girls that worked at the club, of course, weren't allowed to go out with the men afterwards, supposedly, but I understand they
No.
did anyway, in some instances.
Yeah, well, they usually, I mean, Christine and I did, and that's how I fell in with Christine in the first place, because she had an Arab boyfriend. They were all very wealthy at the time. They were young boys studying at the London School of Economics here in London. And consequently, of course, you know, girls will be girls. So we used to sneak out and meet them afterwards.
According to the book, in one of the parts that I read, King Hussein came in and took a whole carload of girls out one night.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to, right, because he was one of the only people in England that was allowed to have a private siren on his car. So he used to whiz down to Brighton, where he had a weekend home or something.
You and Christine didn't exactly hit it off at first, did you?
No, indeed not, no. It was hate at first sight.
And when did the Stephen Ward thing start? Now, the whole thing involved you and Christine Keeler and Stephen Ward and Profumo and all those people. How did you get involved with Stephen Ward to start with?
Well, I got involved with Stephen through Christine, because he was a very close friend of Christine. And when eventually I fell in with Christine, obviously I met Stephen. When we shared a flat together, actually, Christine and I, he came over for the housewarming party. And that's when I met Stephen Ward and Peter Rackman.
Yeah, so Peter Rackman, of course, was your, what should we say, your boyfriend. Peter Rackman kept you in quite good style for a long time, didn't he?
Well, kept me, not totally kept me. I was working the whole time. But we lived together for
Yes.
about 2 years until he died.
Did,
And in very good style, too.
yes. You mean he kept you in very good style, is what you say?
Oh, yes, yes,
Yes. But he had, what did he have, a heart attack or something?
Yes, he had a heart attack, very unfortunately. I loved him very much, and I was very unhappy when he died.
Christine, of course, in her book, which has come out also, didn't have some very kind words for you. She said that she only dedicated 2 or 3 pages of her book to you because she felt that's all you really deserved. Is there a bit of antagonism between the two of you now?
Well, I mean, I don't feel any. Actually, her book hasn't come out yet. This was obviously just something she mentioned in passing. Yeah. And if she does feel so antagonistic towards me, which I do not towards her, so thank God she's only putting 2 or 3 pages.
Yes. Do you know what she's doing now, Christine Keeler?
No, I don't.
Well, she's writing.
I met her.
Where did you see her last?
Oh, about a couple of months ago, we did a picture for some newspapers together, actually when my book came out. And she was in quite, I believe she's been in financial problems. But when I spoke to her last, it seems that she'd come out of them. She's writing a sort of problem page.
Yeah.
An auntie, you know, one of these aunties.
Agony auntie,
in one
they
of,
call it, yeah.
The agony aunties for
Yeah.
one of the men's magazines, right.
Yes. Solving problems, I think.
She's always made more than solved them, but who knows?
Yeah, your problems, too. I saw a photograph of her, and to tell you the truth, she looks awful.
Oh, well, I don't know. When you meet her, she really does look a little different because she has such superb bone structure.
Yeah.
And such a lovely body.
You once quoted, or at least there was a quote in a newspaper that said, I've been branded a cheap prostitute. That's not so. I'm an expensive courtesan, if you like, but never a prostitute. Did you actually say that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, there's another quote.
No, this is from the book. I mean, I don't know what I was, but I wasn't a whore. What I was is dependent upon people's opinions and moral codes, I suppose. But a whore, I never was.
But you girls only really went out with men that were well-fixed or had money or could take care of you?
Oh, good Lord, no.
No?
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, those are the ones mentioned because nobody's interested in Joe Bloggs the butcher, are they?
Oh. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of rich butchers today, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you're right.
The one boyfriend that she had, let's forget about Profumo and Eugene Ivanov, the Russian. By the way, where is he now, the Russian? This is the one...
Well, everybody sort of supposed that he was shipped off to Siberia, but I'm not so sure myself. I heard quite recently from a chap who was in the CIA that the Americans had taken him. You know, they really didn't know what he had and what he didn't. An involuntary defector, they are called. So who knows? And also, I understand that in order for you to get a visa to go to the United States, it's very difficult because you're listed as one of the leading spies. Does that still hold true? No, I was cancelled on the State Security Act. But they did drop that, and it's now a little easier for me to get to the States, which is a great country, so I'm very happy to be able to go there.
Your spy ship has been cancelled, hey?
Yes, unhappily. Now I'm just undesirable.
Yes. Notoriety, of course, causes popularity. They had a poem which they had done here. I don't know who did it. It said, half a pound of Mandy rice, a pound and a half of Keela, put them together, and what do you got? A real sexy Sheila. That was
That's right.
Sort of a thing.
Yes, I heard that years ago, actually. It seems I was told it was a skipping song. No?
Well, how do you feel today? I mean, how does Mandy Rice Davies feel today? That thing is constantly thrown at you. There is sex involved. There's a death of a man involved. There's all of that scandal. Does it weigh heavy on you, or have you put it in your past?
Well, not really. I don't think I'm impressed or distressed by the fact. I think the whole thing is like having some awful disease, you know.
Yeah.
You just have to learn how to live with it.
And there aren't any shots to get rid of it.
No,
there aren't, yes. What does your daughter know about it all now? Has she read the book and knows all the stories? Does she ask you any questions about it?
Yeah, well, I gave her the book to read, but she took one look at it and said it's too thick. So that was the end of that. But for a while, I've always told her, I think from the beginning of time, I've sort of mentioned things and filled her in on gaps here and there. And don't forget, we've been living in Israel since she was born. She was born in Israel, and I've been living there the last 17 years, where my image is so totally different.
Yes.
So I suppose she sort of, combines the two together.
Well,
and anyway, she's at a sort of age where, whatever you do, if your face is in the paper, it's all right by them,
Actually, kids today may look at that and think it's all mild by comparison, really.
Well, I think it was, yes. I mean, it looks rather like a honeymoon, I think.
Well, you have
rather
had...
than the orgy.
Hang on. Unfortunately, Peter Rockman had a heart attack, and then you've had 2 unsuccessful marriages since then. The last marriage, of course, you thought was the perfect one, and it finished. Do you ever think you will find happiness the way you'd like to?
Yeah, well, I hope so, no? I mean, what else is there? It's the only black magic left in life, isn't it?
And of course...
I think so.
Of course...
Anyway, they weren't totally unsuccessful, the marriages,
Well, okay.
I have a daughter by one, and I'm very friendly with both of them, and we still do a lot of business together. So unsuccessful, not. And happily, it didn't turn out as the perfect marriage. But whose does?
Well, I hope if people are interested and they want to get your side of the story that they'll buy a book and read it. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Give my love to London. And by the way, if you go down to Jermyn Street and you happen to go into Tramp, say hello to Oscar and Jackie Collins over there for me.
I will.
Give him my love
indeed.
and tell him I miss him very much. I miss London, too. It was a very nice place. Thank you, Mandy Rice Davies. A pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I got a song with the ballet. Bert's here. Dick Emery is here. We got a whole lot of surprises tonight. Go enjoy yourself. Hang in there. Mandy Rice.